that the government do a review of its foreign policy priorities, that we don't just continue to go on an ad hoc basis as to what our foreign policy should be, for reasons I mentioned before. It's been 10 years of a government really diminishing our footprint in foreign affairs and foreign policy. So I think it's really important right now that we, as was mentioned by one of the panelists, to do a foreign policy review that includes Canadians. And it doesn't have to take a long time, but it should be done well, because instead of just ad hoc responses, I think we need to have a really clear understanding what our foreign policy should be. So my one recommendation is do a foreign policy review, get it right, and then engage Canadians.
Oh, it would be to change foreign ministers, because Stéphane Dion is diplomacy is not in Stéphane Dion's vocabulary. Stéphane Dion is an intellectual who, and he only has one mode, and that's lecture mode. And he is, I think, out there lecturing everybody about how Canada is the most moral power in the world, and how we're abandoning the Harper legacy, and we're now going to be even-handed in the Middle East, and all these things. I think he's actually damaging quite seriously Canada's credibility by talking so loudly and in such a hectoring manner to the world community. I think it's just going to result in Canada's voice not being heard. Now, to be fair to him, the previous government was talking a good game about things they wanted to do on the world stage, but not producing the resources in terms of military equipment and capacity and so on to actually follow up on its commitments. So there are lots of Canadian governments that have done this, but I think the disparity between Mr. Dion's rhetoric and the way that he delivers the message, and the willingness of the rest of the world to listen to Canada, and particularly to a Canadian message delivered in this way, is one that we should be quite concerned about.
Oh, one recommendation to the federal government? That's very difficult. Yeah, they're facing an enormously difficult problem. It's a difficult problem of economic adjustment, and as we've also seen in Canada, there's a national unity overlay to this, because the provinces whose interests are the most different are Quebec and Alberta, and they're also the provinces that tend to be the most independent-minded. So I wish them good luck.
I think the biggest recommendation I would have as a panel member for the youth panel today to the government would be that hear our voice. The youth of this country put this government in power. The youth of this country, I think, have very much a right to hold this government to account. So I think the biggest recommendation I have is to hear our voice, continue to consult, and recognize that universities and campuses and young people across this country are hungry to be active and to do more, and to be a part of the Canadian advocacy effort in humanitarian and resettlement work.
I would recommend the Trudeau government to state specifically how it will reach its goals. It can be easy to state in vague terms what it wants to do, but once you state specifically what you want to do, then government will feel more commitment towards reaching those goals.
If I have to make one recommendation, it's not, I have two. One is more international, one's more domestic. So international would be to increase, again, just like our business role. We have fallen so much, a lot, largely due to our reliance on oil as our key export. So I'd like to see like a diversification in what we're producing and sending out to the world in order to, again, increase ourselves. And then in terms of domestic Aboriginal issues, and increasing their development as well in order to, again, build a stronger Canada.